Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdés, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdés.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? It's Friday night. We're live, we're national. I am Rich Valdés, Valdés with an S, at Rich Valdés on all of the social media. Welcome to the Friday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national. It's 7 minutes past the top of the hour. Here's the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4Valdés. And all sorts of things are coming on over the wire over here. You've got a little bit of a kerfuffle in MAGA world. And again, I love seeing this. I love seeing people stand on principle. I love people having the courage to disagree. To me, that's the system working, right? That's the reason that they have debate. Speech and debate clause of our Constitution, that's the reason. Our country was built on this. So, Dan Bongino, number 2 guy at the FBI, Deputy Director Dan Bongino, it's being reported by LifeZet and other outlets right now that he is weighing whether he resigns his position or not over a clash he's having with the Attorney General regarding the Epstein memo. Now, I don't know a ton about this. I've got no inside track on this, but as it's being reported, Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino considering stepping down from his position following internal tension related to the fallout of the recently released Epstein files. Of course, Epstein being Jeffrey Epstein. According to CNN, Bongino's possible resignation is tied to a confrontation involving Attorney General Pam Bondi. Now, I don't know why we would cite CNN. They don't usually get it right, you know. For all I know, after I read this, we might hear from Bongino saying that's fake news. It was CNN, you know. But this is what CNN is saying. That the disagreement stemmed from a meeting involving Bongino, Director Patel, and the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, and where in the meeting, General Bondi allegedly confronted Bongino and Patel over a story that circulated suggesting the FBI had pushed for more Epstein-related information to be released, but was blocked by the Department of Justice. The implication of that report prompted frustration inside the Department of Justice, according to the CNN report. And again, take that with a grain of salt. The report emphasized that Bongino had not yet reached a final decision about whether to resign. CNN has reached out to Bongino and the FBI for comment. The sources cautioned that Bongino had not made up his mind, and it was possible he would stay in his position. Initial reporting of the clash came from political commentator Laura Loomer, who also said sources familiar with the matter indicated Bongino was seriously considering resignation in response to the disagreement. CNN's Caitlin Collins, this is a tweet from Ms. Loomer. CNN's Caitlin Collins is now confirming her exclusive report about how Bongino is considering resigning from the FBI over his clash with Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice for her mishandling of the Jeffrey Epstein files and lack of transparency at the DOJ. Wow. So, I don't know. I know as much as you do on this one. I really do. They don't cite a whole lot of things in the report, according to Ms. Loomer, including her reporting. And as this stuff develops, this was again as of this afternoon. I haven't seen any update on that as of yet, but that's the case. So as we learn more on that, you'll hear about it from me. Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino is apparently absent from work and not sure if he's coming back. Hopefully that's not the case. I think Dan Bongino is an asset to the administration and to the country, and I think you need principled people in positions of power like that. So we'll see. We'll see. again, I think wherever Dan ends up, he's going to be A-OK, right? If he gets back on the airwaves, he's good there. If he stays in government, we're all the better for it. What else do we got here? Fox News reporting that Biden had a staffer that they call the memory aide. Longtime Biden staffer says she does not recall details about the White House in a 6-hour grilling. She was apparently the babysitter, and now she's also, quasi pleading the fifth. That doesn't surprise me. They continue finding the bodies of young girls that were attended Camp Mystic in Texas, and that, of course, is never going to be easy for us to talk about. My prayers are with the families that are continuing to, learn the fate of their children, and those that are eagerly and anxiously awaiting and anticipating, some sort of closure. Godspeed to all of them. And things aren't getting any better in Los Angeles, right? In L.A., people seem to be getting worse, in my opinion, right? You got the mayor over there, Karen Bass, doubling down, signing an executive order that protects illegal immigrants. You got Gavin Newsom trying to poke fun at the Trump administration, trying to be humorous in their refusal of working with the Trump administration. It's pretty brazen, if you ask me, but that's exactly what's going on. And let's see. There's another one here. You've got conservative college influencer Charlie Kirk sounding the alarm on one of the biggest threats to Republicans holding the White House in 2028. He says that Republicans must deliver on promises of ownership for the next generation. I agree with that. I think, there's a lot of people that want to see certain results, not just the Bongino Pam Bondi stuff, right, over the Epstein files, but over a lot of other things. A lot of people are very eager to see people that have done things that may be criminal. People want to see those people prosecuted. Now, I can tell you, I have a very nuanced view of these things. I can see how people can say, you know what, I can't believe what's going on in America. I had no idea that they were taking American money, our tax dollars, sending them to Ukraine, and then divvying them up and doing whatever they want with it, including starting, uprisings and whatnot, like the Color Revolution in Maidan Square, right? People, a lot of people aren't concerned with that, and when they find out about it, they're up in arms. And maybe I shouldn't say a lot of people, some people, right? Because I think a lot of people don't know and don't care. Some people hear about it and get bent out of shape. By and large, it's just a fraction. And I think that's part of the problem that we have, is that people have sometimes outsized expectations, or the other side of the coin is me, right? People have underwhelming expectations or no expectation at all. Right? You tell me you've got a bunch of Democrats that are convened to get X, Y, and Z done, or a bunch of rhino Republicans. I'm not going to be very enthused about whatever it is that they're trying to promote. And deep in my mind, if you tell me those are the people involved, I'm already thinking this can't last more than a year or 3 before they do something that destroys it. Because that's how those policies, that mindset, that worldview, the Marxist worldview, it just doesn't work. It is destructive. And I think that's putting it nicely. So, again, kudos to Charlie Kirk for sounding the alarm here, saying that the biggest threat to the Republican Party in 2028 is if we do not deliver on our promises of home ownership for the next generation. The youth vote didn't just vote for Donald Trump. Young voters put Donald Trump in the White House. I would say that there's some truth in that statement. I'd say there's also a lot of truth in saying that Hispanics put Donald Trump in the White House. I think there were a number of constituencies that showed up in an outsized way in this particular election. They showed up. They made sure their candidate got elected. And I don't think it's exclusive to one particular group. Although John McLaughlin, President Trump's pollster, he might argue with me on that point. But I think everybody, it's one of those together, everyone achieves more things, right? Team. And that's exactly what happened. But I think Charlie Kirk is right. If young people can't get ahead, if they can't have the promise of the American dream at their disposal, if they get bogged down with a system that just doesn't work for them, I don't see them being too enthusiastic about moving forward or about what the next step in making America great again is going to be. If they're still broke, right? If things aren't going their direction, they can't build wealth, own a home, access to hidden capital and the equity, and maybe buy another one. If you can't do all those things, things aren't as great for you, right? Maybe you could pull that off if you're a single guy with a decent job. But if you have children, you want to be able to provide there too. And I think this is where a lot of people are on the fence. Will they stay on the fence? No, I think they're eventually going to come right back into the MAGA fold. But it's going to take a little while. People need some convincing. And fortunately, actions speak much louder than words. And that's something President Trump is not just good at. I think he's great at it. So, folks, keep it locked right here. We're going to come back. More conversation with you guys. Your calls and more coming up. 833-482-5337. 833-4-Valdés.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Huge agricultural farms, those cannabis facilities there in Ventura County, where federal agents were conducting ICE raids there, but some of these anti-ICE demonstrators and protesters tried to thwart some of those very arrests. In this reporting that roughly 200 illegal migrants were arrested at the marijuana grow sites in California yesterday, including at least 10 children. Children were rescued from alleged potential exploitation, forced labor, and human trafficking. That's according to the Department of Homeland Security. Fox News correspondent William LaJeunesse with more details.
Hundreds of protesters clashed with federal immigration agents in Southern California on Thursday as ICE and Border Patrol agents conduct raids on 2 licensed marijuana farms in Ventura County, where officials found 8 unaccompanied minors, all here illegally. Agents deployed pepper balls, tear gas, and flashbangs, where they were met by demonstrators throwing rocks.
People are welcome to protest. They have their First Amendment rights, correct, but they can't cross that line. They can't impede us from doing our job. That's a felony. They certainly can't put hands on an agent.
The scene became increasingly dangerous when one protester appeared to fire a gun at agents. The FBI now offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to his arrest.
So there you have it. That's a report on what's going on. Apparently, not only do they raid this marijuana farm, but you got a bunch of kids working there. And the first question is, why are there a bunch of kids working there? Second question is, why are there illegal alien children working there? I think that goes without saying. This is what people do with cheap labor. That's why the border was left wide open to begin with. And I want to get some reaction to this from a very good friend of the program, Jennifer Kelly, formerly Jennifer Kearns. She was the press secretary of the California Republican Party. She served in the administration of Arnold Schwarzenegger, the governor of California, and she's now the host of the Jennifer Kelly Show, which airs in New York City starting this Monday. Jen, welcome back.
Hey, Rich. Great to be with you.
Likewise. Thank you. And Jen, I want to get your reaction to this stuff, because I heard this story and I thought I heard it wrong originally. And then I'm thinking, why are they doing this? And why is nobody freaking out about it? The last time I heard about a kid, working in an overnight somewhere, they were getting hurt. And I remember telling the producers off the air, I was like, I bet you anything that kid's an illegal alien. You know why? Because that's where little kids that don't have oversight, that aren't in a country where their parents are, that's what they do. They get used as slave labor here in the United States. And yet I feel like not enough noise is being made about that. Jen Kearns. Kelly.
Yeah, if you look at how much noise the left made when they thought that Donald Trump was putting kids in cages, it turned out it was actually Barack Obama who did that. It is really, the silence is really deafening in terms of what's happening in the state of California. Now, as somebody who lived and worked in California for nearly 15 years in politics, I can tell you, unfortunately, I'm not that surprised. You know why, Rich? The radical left in the state of California, they don't mind this because they think that your kids are their property and they can do with your kids whatever they want to. And that means pre-K, kindergarten paid for by the state and paid for by the taxpayers, and they can educate your kids in whatever way they want to. Then K through 12, they get to educate and indoctrinate your kids in whatever way they want to. They get to tell your kids about, gay sex. They get to tell your kids about that, hey, maybe you should be a boy even though you feel like a girl. They try to indoctrinate your kids and make them transgenders. And when it comes to illegal immigrant kids, they look at these kids as pawns in the big scheme of things. And that's exactly what's happening here. So I looked at that video. It's so scary what's happening there. The parents, by the way, are not dressed up to be farming that day. The parents were dressed in nice clothing. If you look at it, dressed in Crocs, things like that. And the kids were dressed to come to work. So the parents, the ones that were with the kids, are complicit in this as well. But the really big complicit party in this is the Democrat Party in the state of California.
Yeah, and honestly, when it comes to these situations, this type of stuff, I got to tell you, when we talk about the parents, I think we have to use some loose air quotes because we've seen these kids get into this country with, quote unquote, their parents. And then those parents came with some other kids and they were their parents too. And apparently many of these parents are nothing more than mules here in America.
Well, yeah. In fact, the intel, I've been working the phones this evening knowing I was coming on with you, the intel from California, and these are places, Camarillo is where, my radio headquarters are based. This is where, I've run city council races for Camarillo members. I kept a prison hospital out of the backyard of a suburb of Camarillo. So all of these areas I'm very familiar with, have worked the streets of these counties and cities. So this hits home, and I've been working the phones today, and people said the reason that the adults were dressed nicely in these videos, everyone can go back and see, that they may not have been working at all in the fields, that this may have been actually a hub for migrant and human trafficking transportation, and they were using the farm potentially as a shield for that sort of activity. So, a farm can be very busy in the Central Valley of California. You have cars and trucks coming and going. You have shuttle buses, things like that. So they're saying this may have been just kind of an undercover operation posing as a farm, maybe to transport people around throughout California and to help dodge ICE. And that I think is going to be the next news curve of this story.
Jennifer Kelly, everybody, former spokesperson for the California Republican Party, the host of All American Radio, now the host of the all-new Jennifer Kelly Show that's launching on Monday on the Salem station in New York City. I'm very happy to hear that, Jen, and congratulations on that. And I want to continue our conversation. I want to talk about the upcoming one-year anniversary of the Trump assassination attempt. That was a big deal, and that happens this Sunday, as well as the Trump and Newsom beef. There's a little beef in these streets with those two. I want to get the scoop on that as well. So, folks, stick with us. We're coming right back with Jennifer Kelly and me, Rich Valdés.
You're educating America, and you are giving us an opportunity to speak freely. That's why I love this station, and I love your show.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Well, it was unforgettable. I didn't know exactly what was going on. I got whacked. There's no question about that. And fortunately, got down quickly. People were screaming, and I got down quickly, fortunately, because I think they shot 8 bullets. And one got me, and one got another one, and one got another one, and one killed Corey, the firefighter, great guy. And, we had a tremendous, massive crowd. Tens of thousands of people were there. And our sniper, within less than 5 seconds, was able to get him from a long distance with one shot. If he didn't do that, you would have had an even worse situation. It was really bad. But he really did his name is David, and he did a fantastic job. It went about his business just about 4 seconds, and that's when it all stopped, and he got him perfectly from a very long distance. So we got a little bit lucky in that regard.
That's President Trump yesterday in the White House sitting down with his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, on her program. And this is a unique look, right? He hasn't really spoken too much about this incident, but for, a couple of events where he kind of, let loose a little bit and shared with it. But it's not something you hear him talk about very often. And it's something that I think we're going to be talking a lot about this weekend and into next week as we, commemorate that 1 year milestone and kind of reflect on what could have happened, what did happen, and hopefully implement measures where it'll never happen to any president again or a presidential candidate. And I want to continue our conversation with Jennifer Kelly. Jennifer Kelly, again, former spokesperson for the California Republican Party. She served in the administration of Governor Schwarzenegger, and she is a radio host extraordinaire with a brand new show, The Jennifer Kelly Show, launching on Monday out of New York City. So, Jen Kelly, welcome back. Now, tell me, what do you think we can expect this weekend regarding, El Trumpito and the assassination attempt on his life?
Well, I think what you've been seeing is a more introspective Trump. We know that this, altered the fate of his, second term. We're seeing sort of in this second term of Trump, sort of a 2.0, right? A kinder, gentler Trump. And that has been by design. I remember 1 year ago this weekend when the assassination attempt happened, I was in great touch with the RNC. Remember, the Republican National Convention was happening literally a day or two after this assassination attempt took place. And I remember getting calls saying, hey, can you help us? And I said, well, gosh, what do you need help with? These conventions are planned so far in advance. And I thought it was so funny, Rich. They said, well, we're throwing out the entire convention agenda. We're starting over. We're revamping the whole thing because everything has changed from this moment forward. And I thought that was so wise. I mean, just the wisdom of the Trump team to realize and recognize in that moment that the trajectory of politics and the political discourse in this country had changed, but also President Trump's own reaction to it changed. He didn't become a more bombastic Trump. He became a more Reagan-esque Trump. And I think so many of us who admire him, and I really admired his first term, but I'm even more impressed by the second term in which he's taken on kind of this grandfatherly figure over all of us, sort of this, guy guiding us with wisdom, a calmer, gentler Trump, a better message Trump. And man, he's just doing a fantastic, fantastic job. And thank God the would-be assassin did not succeed 1 year ago this weekend.
Yeah, well, amen to that. And I have to agree with you. I think that the version of Trump that we have now is kind of two things. Like, one is older and wiser, right? Fool me once type of thing. He those 4 years off that he had, he learned so much, and he knew a lot going in. And I think after the swamp played their dirty tricks, it's one of those things where you're not going to get a chance to fool him again. And that's, I think, very helpful for him now. And B, nothing like staring death in the face and walking away from it with your life and the humility that goes with that. I think some people might take a daredevil approach with kind of like, aha, you couldn't get me. But I don't think that was Trump. I think Trump was more like, thank God you didn't get me, and he's just grateful and with a dose of humility that I honestly can't say I've seen publicly before. I think privately he's a very actually humble guy. But publicly he's Trump. and he's able to use that. And I think it's not to his detriment at all, right? It's a benefit to him, where people who previously might have been critics are looking at him and they find that endearing.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's showing up in the polling numbers too. Not to be, the political strategist that I am, but it's showing up in the polling. You have one of the latest polls out of Rasmussen showing him with a 55% approval rating. That's higher than John F. Kennedy had. That is higher than Ronald Reagan even had at the height of Reagan's popularity. And it's just incredible. Here's this guy that for the last 5 years, we've been told is evil, is, a Nazi, is the next version of Hitler. And he's none of those things. And the American people really do see through that. They don't just support him at 55%. They're supporting some of his most controversial policies, that the left wants you to believe are most controversial anyway. Things like the deportation of all immigrants, not just the immigrants that are illegal immigrants that are criminals, but the deportation of all illegals to go back to their home country, get back in line. 70% of the American people of all three political stripes, Republican, Democrat, Independent, nearly 70% of people agree with Trump's policy on that. So that's a great day at the office. That's a great first 6 months at the office, and that's an incredible 1 year mark from the assassination attempt that we had a year ago. I mean, he's really, at the core of it, he's really united the country around his policies in addition to his persona.
I agree. And I think, when he had a little spat with Gavin Newsom a couple of weeks ago, and, Newsom said, I didn't hear from him. I haven't heard from the president. And Trump said, yeah, look at my phone. Right there. I called the guy. I thought that was just fantastic. I mean, even the fake news media couldn't, walk that one back. I love that his brashness is still there, and he can still take the media to task. But it seems like him and Newsom have this little love-hate thing going on. What do you know about it?
Yeah, they do. Look, I am privy to some of the conversations he had with Gavin Newsom in the first term, when COVID was happening. They disagreed publicly, but they were really back-channeling each other. They were texting. They were keeping one another posted. And I thought, well, gosh, that's awfully charitable of Trump to be giving Gavin sort of an out at the time that Gavin was facing a recall election. And Larry Elder and others were trying to take Gavin Newsom down. But now I think it's shifted where Gavin Newsom actually needs Donald Trump more than President Trump needs Gavin Newsom, and for those poll reasons I just mentioned, and especially on that issue of immigration. And so this is going to be interesting. Gavin is trying to make a name for himself in his own party, which has gone so far left that he almost can't even compete against AOC in the 2028 primary that's going to come up a year or two from now. People are going to start declaring and running for the White House. And so Gavin Newsom, I think, is probably the biggest victim of two things. Number one, the popularity of Donald Trump and his policies. And he's also the victim of how far left the Democrat Party has gone, because they've gone to the AOC wing, they've gone to the Zohran Mamdani wing, and there's really no place for Gavin Newsom in that. And he's been trying to moderate and go towards the middle and go on Charlie Kirk's podcast and talk with Steve Bannon and kind of moderate in the middle and say, hey, I'd be great for the suburban American housewife vote. Well, there's not really a path for that in the current Democrat Party, because their audience is more like, the Chinese Cultural Revolution of the 1960s and 70s. They're not really interested in American freedom. And so I think Gavin Newsom, he's going to need Trump, and he's going to need this little spat between Trump more than Trump actually needs it for him. Trump's got a lot going on. Gavin Newsom's kind of like a gnat out there. He's trying to bat away.
Jen Kelly, I want to ask you about Mayor Karen Bass, but I have to take a quick pause right here. Can you stick with me, or do you have to run?
Of course. Anything for you.
You're the best. All right, folks, we're coming right back with Jennifer Kelly, host of the Jennifer Kelly Show, former administration official of Governor Schwarzenegger and spokesperson for the California Republican Party. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdés with an S.
Look at Rich Valdés. He's now a radio host, and he's a great radio host.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
When people are taken from our city, we do not necessarily know where they are going. They are not provided regular access to families or to legal counsel. And that the family members that are left behind don't know whether their family members are in the city, in the state, or even in the country. And we also know that when these raids have been happening, it's not just people who are undocumented, but people who are in the country legally, people who are showing up for their annual immigration visit, or even sometimes U.S. citizens who have been detained.
That's Mayor Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, California, saying that people are being disappeared from the streets as if there was some sort of vigilante killing people instead of immigration police doing what they're supposed to do. ICE is doing their job, and they continue to just mischaracterize the whole thing. I want to get some reaction on this from our California expert, Jennifer Kelly, formerly Jennifer Kearns. She's a regular on our program, always happy to have her. She's the host of the new Jennifer Kelly Show on the airwaves in New York City in the mornings, 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and she's with us right now. Jen, when you hear Karen Bass try to sell this stuff, what goes through your mind?
Well, I just had to chuckle. I was a communications director when Karen Bass, it was the state Senate majority leader in Sacramento. This is probably 15 years ago when I first got started in politics. She was an idiot then, and she's a clueless idiot now. And I don't name call. I never name called Joe Biden grandpa or anything like that. I've been very respectful.
Yeah,
but when
leave it to
these
me.
when these Democrat leaders step out and they step out to the microphone and they're trying to incite riots, and Los Angeles is a very large city. There's 10 million plus people in Los Angeles, and so she has to be very careful of what she's saying because she's actually lying to people. Kash Patel has actually addressed this. They are not going after legal citizens. They are not going after people who are just showing up for their annual immigration appointment. So those are two lies that she told at the outset of that press conference. And that is a very dangerous thing because then you're creating this situation, right, where if you were to believe those two lies, then you would think that federal law enforcement agents are being like, Hitler's secret army and coming in the dark of night and snatching your abuela from their home. And nothing could be further from the truth. And so she's not just being disingenuous, she is outright lying. And, either her staff is writing these points for her and she doesn't know that that's not true, or she's just lying to her own constituents. But look, this is a dangerous situation, especially in Los Angeles, especially in California. And as long as I have been in politics in California, going back 25 years, the illegals have basically run the show in the state of California. They pressure the politicians to govern a certain way. They pressure the politicians for their benefits and their goodies. And so this is a very dangerous situation that these federal law enforcement agents are having to walk into. And if you look at that raid, the rightful raid that happened in Camarillo, California, when you see the tail end of it, Rich, and those federal law enforcement vehicles leaving that raid and they're under attack, they're under siege, but they're also trying to be very careful not to run people over as they're trying to get out and save themselves and
Right.
their passengers in their cars. Wow, what a skilled group of federal law enforcement agents we have, and we owe them, our debt of gratitude because they're out there doing their jobs. They're doing what 70% of Americans want them to be doing, Republicans, Democrats, and independents. So they deserve our thanks, not our rocks and our pistols, as we've seen in the video.
Jennifer Kelly, this is, to me, one of the worst things they can do, because I think you're right when you say that a lot of voters are in favor of seeing less illegal immigrants in America. Yet the media is still reporting it as if this is, something that's out of step with what the American people want. And to me, it seems like they're just going to lose their audience, right? They're eventually going to lose the people that were once glued to the CNN screen or the MSNBC screen. they're going to lose these people because they're being disingenuous, and people actually don't want this, like you kind of alluded to. So do we see what gives here? You know, when does the change happen? Because I don't think this can continue much longer.
Yeah, you know, the numbers don't lie, and the numbers are probably even stronger because we know that pollsters underplay the conservative viewpoint by 8 to 9 points. And polling, there were two interesting polls on this which support your points, and that is a poll that showed the majority of American people felt the highest they had felt since the Obama administration in 2010, that people ought to be deported and that we should use force to do so. So that I thought that was an interesting point and a very bipartisan point, speaking to, you know, just the support that these law enforcement agents actually have. And you wouldn't think that if you turn on ABC News at night. And a second thing was something that popped up in the polls to a great degree that had never even registered before in all of American history, as long as polling has been around, is that for the first time in American history, a strong majority, over 2/3 of the country, wanted all illegal immigrants returned home to their home countries. And then they wanted them to refile to become citizens here in the country. And they said that it wasn't just enough anymore to come here illegally and say that you're coming here for a job or a job that Americans won't do, that they said you have to come here and assimilate and join the culture and become an American and all of the things that Americans support. And so, hey, if the left wants to call 2/3 of the country racist and all of these things and hateful and isolationist, then fine. But that's a pretty high percentage of the country. That was about 80% of the country. So that means only 20% of the country is left, and in the tank with the rock throwers and the people who want to kill federal agents on site. So that's a pretty tough case. As far as the media, yeah, people will just start turning the stations off even more than they already have, and that's showing up in the ratings as well.
Jen, take about 15 or 20 seconds and let everybody know how they could follow you and how they could find your show this Monday.
Yes, they can tune in anytime. Just go to thejenniferkellyshow.com, thejenniferkellyshow.com, or they can find me on social media, Jennifer Kelly Show. And we'll see everybody on the air Monday, 5:30 a.m. in New York City. And then the rest of the week, we're out in a bunch of other places, too, Colorado, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, and a couple other spots.
Outstanding. Folks, check her out, The Jennifer Kelly Show. We're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We go to the phones. It's the speed round. Tampa, Florida, richvaldez.com. Eduardo, go right ahead, brother.
Yeah, Rich, good evening. I heard this during the day. Mayor Bass ultimately go over there in the neighborhood like Pacific Palaces, one of the neighborhoods that was impacted by the fires earlier in the year. She wants to use those for low-income people and priority for illegals. So don't be surprised if that turns out to be true.
Yeah, you know, I've heard similar speculation about stuff like that, Eduardo. I can only hope that it's just bad information and it's not true, because if it is, I don't think it's going to go over well with the people. I'm sure things like that have happened over the years plenty of times, but there's a lot of people watching now, and my hope is that they're going to do the right thing. But time will tell, brother. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Shout out to Eduardo, and of course, shout out to our man Pablo. We're going to get to him in a few minutes as well. Plus the rest of your calls, 833-482-5337. Now's the time to call in if you want to join the show, 833-4-VALDEZ. For most of you, I'm coming back with another hour of exciting program. For some of you, it's the end of the road. Hasta la próxima. I'm Rich Valdés.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdés. America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, Here is your host, Rich Valdés.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdés, Valdés with an S, at Rich Valdés on all of the social media. Welcome to another hour of the program. We're live and national this Friday night. It's 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and on the East Coast, that's 10 o'clock p.m. On the West Coast, that's 7 p.m. in some places. Some of you guys are in Central, so bear with me on that one. But our phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdés. And there's a lot I want to talk about tonight. We've been talking about immigration, what's going on in California, all the craziness that's happening there. We're going to shift gears a little bit and open up the conversation to find out a little bit more about Hollywood in particular. How is Hollywood interfering with foreign policy coming out of Washington? Now, you know, years ago, there was an actor named Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan was the president of the Screen Actors Guild. And him and his fellow cowboy actor, John Wayne, oftentimes mused about how they were holding the line on patriotic films, that they were fighting to make sure that Chinese malign influences were not going to get onto the silver screen here in the United States. But yes, make no mistake that this is a real thing, right? It's a real thing that was going on back then. Reagan took on that mantle of becoming president of the Screen Actors Guild before he became governor of California, before he became president of the United States, back when he was a Democrat. And he did that because he saw how the Chinese and others were trying to influence American films. The Communist Party has always tried to get their way into our culture, and they figure it out time and again. So I just thought it was very interesting to see that that was happening, 50 years ago. And it's still happening today. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about some of the other stuff that's going on in the world from a geopolitical perspective, as well as your thoughts, your calls, your reactions to so many things that are happening. And, of course, the regular stories of the day, right? You still got the left just, like, they won't stop. And I guess the reason this rubs me the wrong way sometimes is because there's things that I harp on as well, right? You'll hear me talking about the same thing over and over, right? I've been like a broken record saying, listen, if you are MAGA, real MAGA does not support Eric Adams. That's my opinion. I don't think that is a good move. That is not a good look for New York City. Poll came out the other day. Let me see if I can pull it up while we're on the phone so I can give you the actual play-by-play here. Poll, Mandani, and Sliwa. Mandani was at 35%. Sliwa, 29%. This is not a huge number, right? 6 points this early on in July. Totally doable. But for some reason, it's like everybody's taking their pussycat pills. They're fearful of everything. All of a sudden, there's no way he can win. Remember when they said that about Trump? I don't. I do remember. And I think that's a good thing. All right, here we go. We got it in AM New York and in Politico. Let's see. Mandani takes the lead. All right, so look at this. Mandani leads with 35%, followed by... let me see, where is it? I lost my place here. Of course, right when I'm about to read it. Anyway, point is, Sliwa has an opportunity to come up from behind, and he needs to take it. But he can't do it if everybody that would normally have his back is sitting on the sidelines too afraid. I mean, come on. People need to have a little courage here. Like this guy. This guy's not afraid to be 32 years old. He's coming out swinging. Mad Manny over here, right? Zoran Mad Manny. He comes out and he says, hey, I think we should own the bodegas. Hey, I think we should give bus rides for free. Hey, I think we should, actually take the means of production, right? The government should own these things. This is not just, his ideology. This is his courage. He's not afraid to show people. They say, but what about the global intifada? Will you renounce that? No, I'm not going to renounce that. In fact, he says that he supports the Central Park Five, these 5 terrorists. He's supportive of the Hamas terrorists. He's supportive of a lot of things that he should be embarrassed and ashamed about, but he's not. Right? In Spanish, we'd call him un sinvergüenza. Right? He is without shame because he has the courage to stand on what he believes. And I would just wish Republicans would do the same thing. Instead of saying, oh, my gosh, we don't want the socialists. Let's go with Adams, who's like socialist light. Adams, who oversaw a woman burning to death on a subway platform, on the subway, in the actual subway car. I mean, unheard of that man who's currently mayor, who's polling in last place, it's unheard of that anybody would think of endorsing that guy and think that he's better than this guy. Now, I'm not saying that this guy is better than the other. I'm saying they're the same. Since when do we say, well, since we don't think we can win, we're going to go with the lesser of two evils? How do you make that decision? Months. The election is in November. We were in June when I started hearing those nonsense stories. Right after Sliwa had, if they didn't like Sliwa, why didn't they run somebody else in the primary? He ran unopposed. I tell you, this is why I'll never run for office. Just too many people that make bad choices. And it's a mistake. I'm telling you, it's a mistake to put any support behind Eric Adams. That's all I can tell you. Anyway, I'm going to move on from that. Where do I want to go? Oh, the rift between Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi. Now, again, this is not me confirming the reality or veracity or any of that. This is me just telling you that it's been reported by CNN. I think we even have an audio clip of that. Listen to this. Check this out.
This is truly unusual breaking news. You know the breaking news animation. You know sometimes the news is big, significant, serious. This one is unusual. A major escalation in what is increasingly a kind of political, quiet, peaceful civil war, but a civil war of political proportions for MAGA over these Epstein files. And it's roiling the Trump administration at quite literally the highest levels. Sources detailing the ongoing clash over a fight that could cost someone their job. Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi clashing with the FBI number 2 official Dan Bongino. As everybody who follows these kind of stories knows, technically the AG oversees the FBI, but if you remember Comey or other strong-willed FBI officials, when you're at that number 1, number 2 level, they sometimes fight with the DOJ. Sources say Bongino is so upset about all this, he's saying maybe he'll just leave, which would be a very quick tenure, by the way, and he would be leaving in a sort of protest or criticism of Bondi's handling of the Epstein files. Other outside agitators, including Tucker Carlson, saying she's lost confidence, maybe she has to go. He was not at work today, reportedly. Sources also say Bondi and Bongino got into a heated clash Wednesday in a high-level meeting with him, her, FBI Director Patel, and Donald Trump's number 1 person who tracks all this stuff and makes the big staffing decisions, Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, who, of course, also ran the...
So, Susie Wiles, chief of staff. Now, you know who's reporting here? Ari Melber. When was the last time you believed anything Ari Melber had to say? So I take these reports coming from CNN and from Ari Melber with a grain of salt, maybe half a grain of salt, right, to keep our blood pressure down. I believe that you may have disagreements, and that's the system working. You have people saying, look, taking principled stands. Look, we need to do the right thing here, and if we don't do the right thing, I don't know if I could be a part of this. I'm not mad at anybody for saying that. But that's part of a conversation that's going to end somewhere, right? With something, with some resolution. Whether it's, all right, I'm leaving, or all right, you're right. How do we walk this back? Or how do we, recover from this? Or how do we don't know the rest of that conversation. What I do know is when these sharks at CNN and Ari Melber and MSNBC and everybody else, when they smell a little blood in the water, they start circling, looking to make the kill. And most of the time, they don't have the story right. right? Who remembers when Rachel Maddow, raise your hand unless you're driving, but raise your hand if you remember when Rachel Maddow said, big story, breaking news, I've got the Trump taxes, the ones that he wouldn't release. Somebody leaked them to me. I got them, and I'm going to show you them. And then she proceeded to try and show us everything that was on those tax records. And guess what? It was a big, to borrow their term, nothing burger. Absolutely nothing. It showed that he paid taxes, a whole lot. That was it. They tried to spin it like, oh, but he didn't pay taxes on this, but he paid on that. And, useless. It didn't move the needle on their conversation. It didn't improve their position. It didn't do anything. In fact, Trump won. So all I could say is take all this stuff with a grain of salt, right? I believe Trump has the right people in place, not because Trump is infallible, not because people don't make mistakes, but because you've got people that have a level of integrity where they want to do the right thing. And they're doing their best. And I believe that. And I think we're working through this process, trying to figure out what's what, who's who. And, our government makes deals. Deals are made on all sorts of things, at all sorts of levels. And it's when you don't have all the facts, you can't just go and jump into bed with Ari Melber and believe his bedtime story. Anyway, we're going to continue our conversation. We got plenty of calls to go to as well. I want to get to your calls. I want to get to our guest who's going to weigh in on what I started with. How liberal Hollywood is sabotaging Trump's international agenda. So don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Hollywood titans Disney and NBC Universal have sued AI image generator Midjourney for what they call straight-up theft of some of their most well-known characters, from Spider-Man and Darth Vader to Homer Simpson. Disney and NBC Universal have launched...
So there's some back and forth on what's going on with AI, with China, with Hollywood. And this beef with Hollywood has been going on for a long time. The Chinese have been trying to influence things for a very long time. But now it's at a different scale, a different angle. And, of course, I want to get some input on that from our guest, as well as from you, all the American people. 833-4-VALDEZ is the phone number. Dr. Rebecca Grant joins us. She's vice president of the Lexington Institute. And she's going to explain to us a little bit how the liberal Hollywood left is sabotaging Trump's agenda with China, in particular, the AI war. Dr. Grant, welcome back.
Glad to talk with you.
So talk to us here with respect to what's going on with this AI agenda. Obviously, to use the term arms race, there's an arms race, I think, for AI between the United States and other competitors. Probably China's the closest one from what I can see. And talk to us how Hollywood is interjecting itself and who they're rooting for.
Well, you're right. China really is the only major competitor to the U.S. And honestly, the stakes could not be higher, because whoever gets ahead in AI will have an economic advantage, will be able to win the next military confrontations. But, Hollywood just doesn't seem to understand any of this. National security is barely a whisper in the big debates about AI rules and regulations. So we've seen several moves by Hollywood, including several lawsuits against the big tech companies who run the world's leading AI models, claiming all sorts of things, from copyright infringement to an ability to generate content, most of it just really off base. But it's so narrow, because the bottom line is that our tech companies need to use the full suite of literature and content that is out there in order to train the world's best AI models and keep us ahead of China.
So, like usual, the liberals in Hollywood, the left within our entertainment media, are siding with the enemy. Sadly, it seems to be the default for them. And we're all here just watching. Is there something that the American people can do? Is there a move that you think the administration is going to take to try to persuade them, or at least allay some of their interest in China?
Well, we're waiting to see about some executive orders actually on AI, artificial intelligence, possibly coming up from the administration. They're scheduled for later this month. But, the real thing is, first of all, just starting with the awareness. To Hollywood, there were a couple of cases that were decided in California late last month, and they actually found in favor of the AI models, saying that they can go ahead and use content as long as it's been paid for, it's not being kept in a pirated database. But, the Hollywood reaction was just up in arms. The Hollywood Reporter said, oh, this is bad news for movie studios. They ran this picture of Darth Vader from Star Wars as though this is what, AI is doing. So first of all, people need to be aware that Hollywood's agenda here is very narrow, very self-focused, at a moment in time when we're trying to prevent having Chinese thought and Xi Jinping and Marx and Lenin go into training the AI models.
Right.
That's what we're trying to prevent. So that's the first thing, is people need to be aware of what the stakes are.
Yeah, listen, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think for some reason, I don't know if maybe you could answer this better than I could, but I feel like whenever I try to sound the alarm on that stuff, people look at me like, oh, you're one of those crazy McCarthyites that thinks there's a commie behind every bush. But is not the writing not on the wall that the Marxist, Leninist, Xi Jinpingist, Maoist people that are out there, they're all trying to come for our lunch, aren't they?
Oh, they are. And I think that's where Hollywood has a big issue, because right now, Chinese money is very important to a lot of studio movies. Companies like Tencent have invested very heavily. The other thing, of course, is the global box office. And that's changed a lot in recent decades, to where you could really open a film and reach your profit targets. If it was a good movie, you could do that in the U.S. Now they really are looking to that global marketplace, and that's why we see a change in the types of movies that are out there, but also, very much pointing towards that global market. And in some cases, the famous one being the change of the patch in the Top Gun movie, right? So in some cases, studios are bowing down to China.
Well, Dr. Grant, hang on right there. We're going to talk about the change of the patch in Top Gun. I also want to flash back to last summer with the Barbie movie. There was some controversy there as well. Folks, we're coming right back with Dr. Rebecca Grant, Vice President at the Lexington Institute. We're talking about Hollywood's war on American industry, AI in particular. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdés.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with Dr. Rebecca Grant regarding what is going on in Hollywood. Why are they cheering on the bad guys, the Chinese, especially when it comes to AI? Dr. Grant, we left off with you talking about the Top Gun patch controversy, and I mentioned the Barbie movie having to make a change in order to air it in China. You pick it up where you left off.
The Barbie movie, because there was something called the 9-dash line. It's some squiggles that runs from Vietnam down to Malaysia around the Philippines. China claims they own that whole sea. The UN and the whole rest of the world says no. But it was put in the Barbie movie. So just another little example of kind of Chinese thought content. And so this is actually happening, and yet you have Hollywood saying, oh, no, we don't want any of our content to be used in training U.S. AI models. And here's the deal. It's either going to be China's large language models of AI or the U.S. models that win. Right now we're ahead. We have better chips. and we have a better overall AI ecosystem of models and innovation and training. But if we even let China get a toehold in that, then they have a chance to overtake us in the global market. And then we're all going to be having things that China makes up, not only in our movies, but in daily life as well. And Hollywood they don't distinguish right now between China's propaganda and Chinese AI models and then the good AI models by our highly competitive U.S. companies that compete with each other all day long, Meta, Google, Anthropic, OpenAI. They're all fierce rivals trying to create better models in the good old American way.
Right.
China, where it's all regulated by the state.
That's how we win competition, right? You start out with Ford, you end up with Lamborghini.
Win. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And we're in a good position now, but we have to keep that up and keep improving the models, which is why in this particular cases in California, they won the ability to train on a wide variety of books and, not just on narrow segments. And that's how we keep the whole ecosystem improving so that we can get AI to where we want it to be, not taking over our lives or replacing all literature content, but doing the medical research, the software writing that we want it to be able to do to improve productivity across our economy.
Dr. Grant, give me your summation or your estimation on what this means for American jobs and really the future of America being the leader, the thought leader, the actual leader of the AI category if we don't take the bull by the horns now.
Right. So AI should improve productivity across a whole range of sectors. I talked about medical research, software coding. Will there be some disruption and up and down? Yeah, there will. But overall, good inventions tend to improve products and improve productivity, and therefore the standard of living for all of us. That's if the open U.S. AI models continue to lead this globally. If China moves in, it's going to be like what they've done in other markets. They took over all of shipbuilding. They took over building solar panel components. And the U.S. is then squeezed out. Only this time, they'll have taken the ability to catch up to those advanced AI models and a lot of that content, and they'll get the productivity gains, not us. That would be bad in so many ways.
Now, talk to me about the tariffs, right? I think we were in calm tariff waters for a while now. President Trump this week ramping up tariffs again on Brazil, doubling them, I think the last time I read, going after a few others and sending out a bunch of letters earlier in the week. It seems that President Trump's tariff strategy scared a lot of people, allies included, but ultimately even his rivals had to admit it worked really well. It sent the markets down for a second, but rallied them at some very high levels recently, and we haven't seen that dip really. And it seems to be a winning strategy with some of his biggest critics saying he figured out something we didn't know. So do you think that this is a good time for him to pause and take a victory lap, or is it the right time to strike while the iron's hot and keep his foot on the gas, more tariffs? Dr. Grant, are you there? All right, amigos, I think we lost Dr. Grant. Control room? Nothing? All right. Well, that's a shame. I always appreciate speaking with Dr. Rebecca Grant from the Lexington Institute, and hopefully we'll be able to get her back. If not, you can check her out at lexingtoninstitute.org. But as I was saying, I think that by and large there's a lot of people, even the critics of President Trump's, are kind of saying, you know what, let's see where this thing goes. And if tariffs start to fall into place, and our conversation earlier this week with E.J. Antoni was positive. I thought it was a very positive assessment that he had on this, which was ultimately things are looking good, but we're not cranking on every cylinder yet, right? All systems are go, but we're not all there. So, Dr. Grant, I'm told we have you back. Is that true?
Yes, here I am.
Oh, she's back. All right. So, yeah, my question to you is, do you think that Trump is doing the right thing, striking while the iron's hot, with these additional tariffs that we saw this week?
Oh, absolutely. And he said that he would do this. He wants basically to get a good, fresh deal with almost every country out there. So including this week, top allies like South Korea and Japan. We do a lot of complicated business transactions with them. And he is just planning to reset everything. It had been years of neglect, of not really paying attention, while other countries put tariffs on us and we didn't do it on them, even if we were good security allies. And so I think he's done the right thing to go ahead and move on. He's already got some major successes, the deal with the United Kingdom. He's made some progress with China. And now we really want to get things on an even level footing with South Korea, with Japan, and with others, so that we can get back to doing deals in business. And, you know, we have a big deal with steel with Japan, with South Korea. We do a lot of shipbuilding deals with them. So I think he absolutely had to strike while the iron was hot.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think there's a lot of people that were afraid, and I understand the fear. I totally get it. I'm not blind, but Trump clearly saw something that many didn't see, and he rolled the dice. It's working for America, and I'm glad he did it. Dr. Grant, let everybody know how they find you. I gave them the website for the Institute, but is there a social media handle besides LexingtonInstitute.org where they can follow your work?
Yes, there is. You can find me at Rebecca Grant DC and the Lexington Institute at LexNextDC, and look for us on LinkedIn as well.
Outstanding, folks. Check her out at give him the X handle one more time.
Yes, mine is Rebecca Grant DC, like Washington DC, and for the Lexington Institute, it is at LexNextDC.
Outstanding. Well, folks, give her a follow. Give the Institute a follow. Make sure you stay up to speed with everything they're doing. And Dr. Grant, thanks for staying up late with us. Have a great weekend. God bless.
Thank you.
You bet. Amigos, your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, and everything else coming up right now. Open phones across America. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés. Call now, 833-4-VALDÉS. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDÉS. That's Valdés with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
All right, amigos, to the phones we go. We've got a few people that want to weigh in on what's going on. And let's see, who do we start with? Let's start with Ralph. Ralph is in Burlington, Vermont on WVMT. Ralph, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdés. Welcome.
Captain Valdés. The idea is, my premise is, it's the Pelosi effect all over again, because anything I'm an independent, but you got a lot of Democrats, you know, just basically like lemmings going up to the bluff. The leader jumps off and they all jump off. It's really, really weird that they're in lockstep. And then you got the thing about, you know, Mr. Schumer not defending, I don't think, the Jewish faith, and then you got Bernie Sanders threatening Netanyahu coming over, you know, like he's a war criminal, and then that prospective mayor that won the Democratic.
Yes,
yeah,
Zoran.
So it's like he's like, we're going to arrest him if he comes by. Anyhow, it just seems like they don't have any real direction. Can you help me out with, you know, what the thinking of Democrats are, even though the Republicans seem to be kind of shifting around a little bit, but
why do you say
at
that?
least
What are they
they're
shifting
more
on?
true. Well, they're kind of shifting around like, you know, you got to buy, almost like you have to buy votes to get the bills passed, you know, like.
Well, yeah, that's politics.
Hey, we'll help you out. We'll help you out, Mikowski, in Alaska, if you get your vote, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. No, I get it. The horse trading. Yeah, I think that's inevitable. You're never gonna get. I don't believe you'll ever have a government, any party, where it's going to be free of making deals. But I think when government is working is when you're able to make the deal. Honestly, when you're able to actually pull off a deal and get something passed. I like what a lot of people are doing about putting in spending controls. You know, like if for every dollar you want to spend, you've got to cut somewhere else. I love those things, and those types of commitments are great. But ultimately, to answer your question, or at least give you my perspective on your statement, here's the thing. I think what Democrats suffer from is they're in the middle of a identity crisis, right? And there's a tug of war within the party. People like JFK, there's still some of them in the Democrat Party. A lot of them left and they became Trumpers, just like during the Reagan Revolution. But that was the original thing. They were just like, look, I'm a liberal. I love this country. But listen, you want to burn your bra, burn your bra. You know, I don't think we should be at war with anybody. This is the liberal talking, right? And then you've got the more hawkish conservatives that are a part of the party. And they seem to have gravitated out too, right? The conservative Democrats are pretty much all gone. I won't call Joe Manchin a conservative Democrat, but he was probably the last of any Democrat that, you know, would even talk to conservatives. So I think the identity crisis is the rest of them are in love with Karl Marx. The rest of them think that, you know, Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez and these tin pot dictators, these are what a good Democrat is. And then you have others, you know, John Fetterman, for example, from Pennsylvania, who's like, no, I think we should deport people. I think we should have border. Even John Kerry. Do I have time? I do. All right, let's go. Play me the John Kerry cut from today. This is a very eye-opening cut. Listen to this, Ralph.
We have a system, and the president, I wish President Biden had been heard more often saying, I'm going to enforce the law.
If Donald Trump were out on the veranda there, looking out over the sea, and he turned around and came in this room and said, there you are, I was right all along. That's what he would say.
Well, he was right. The problem is we all should have been right.
All right, listen to that. That's John Kerry, right? The border, what was he? The Green New Deal czar, the climate czar for Biden, saying Biden should have done better, and Trump was right. Right? John Kerry is not a conservative, but he says Trump is right. Right? So John Kerry is part of a dying breed in his own party. If he doesn't move to the left with the rest of them, they'll make him into some sort of radical right-winger. And he's not. So this is the problem, Ralph. You have these Democrats that have taken over the party ideologically, trying to push the agenda further and further to the left. You've got some of the old guard that's in there saying, look, no, we're the OGs. You cannot do this. We can be liberals, but we can't be crazies. We can't be progressives. That progressive stuff, nobody likes it, but Bernie Sanders and AOC, nobody wants to turn their sons into daughters and their daughters into sons. But they don't care. Why? Because they don't even have kids, those people. Right? AOC said she's not having kids because the world was going to end in 12 years. So ultimately, they have this identity crisis. And the Republicans had an identity crisis a while back when we had the Tea Party and we were at war with the country club Republicans, George Bush's ilk and whatnot. But today we've landed, right, with populists all over the place. We've got populists among us. You've got Tea Party conservatives amongst us, constitutionalists, combined with liberal Democrats that love America. And they all make part of this big MAGA movement. And they don't seem to have an identity crisis because they found a place where people respect each other. And on the other side, people don't respect each other and they go to war. So the only thing they know how to do is feed the system that gives them the power that they need, because they don't get their power from the people, right? Trump gets his power from the people. He says, hey, I want to be your president. And 30,000 people show up in an arena wanting to wear their red MAGA hat, wanting to do the YMCA dance. There's no Democrat that can pull that off. AOC can maybe fill up a small stadium because it's not because of her, it's because of her Marxism. So she will attract, the commies or the socialist Democrats amongst us. But when it comes to really what the left likes to call a cult of personality, and I would say it's really like-mindedness, people that see what they believe personified in the leader of the party, Donald Trump. And that's why it's so successful. And that's why you look at a MAGA rally and you see a black guy next to an Asian guy, next to a white woman. It's very diverse because it's not about anything other than Americanism and making America great. And I think those are the big differences we have. So while we still have some, big spending Republicans out there, I think we're going to get closer and closer to where we want to be. At least that's my, me drinking the positive Kool-Aid. Hope that made sense. I'm going to take a pause right here. Shout out to Ralph in Burlington, WVMT, coming back to South Carolina, Ohio, Idaho, and more. 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Amigos, it's Rich Valdés. That's right. And I'm with you live, 833-4-VALDEZ. I want to go to Robert, San Jose, California, KSFO. Go right ahead quickly.
Hey, Rich. How you doing?
Great. Thank you.
I saw, you see a Zorhan wanting to commandeer private property. That's insane. You see Mexicans in Mexico City worried about gentrification. They should be happy that money's coming down there, eventually building high-density housing and upgrading their area. We need high-density housing everywhere, along with suburbs. Can't vilify those. Of course, you want to hear. They want us to hear that message to lube us out of our property, hopefully. But that's another subject. But it's really our collectivism, which is the taxpayers. We're all good Christians. We hopefully want to be just taxed a flat 10% like the Bible, obligatorily. Maybe skip a year because charity begins.
I like
home.
the way this
and
is
then,
going. 5 or 10%.
You know what I'm saying?
Skipping a year.
And then voluntarily give all the money, GoFundMe, and donate to all these
right,
causes.
Yeah.
We
Give
really
to your
feel
heart's
that,
content. Right. Listen, I'm with you. I think this is why I've never been a fan of communism. Right. I don't want compulsory charity. Right. Charity has to be charitable. Very good point. Listen, I don't know what Mexico wants, and I don't know what Mexico needs. If they want to keep their country the way they have it, then good on them. I know that, I happen to live in a country where we have a lot of diversity, but there's a lot of countries out there that do not have I was in Hungary. I saw one black man when I was in Hungary. One black man. So I know that there are a bunch of European countries where there's no Hispanics, there's no blacks, or very little of them. Look at Greenland. Pull up some numbers on Greenland. Yeah, they're pretty interesting. Anyway, I get your point, though. Robert in San Jose, California, KSFO, thank you for the call. I hope that you're in charge of our tax plan. Debbie in Canton, Ohio, Jerome and Paul, I'm coming right back in a couple of minutes. Give me about 8 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdés, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdés.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdés, Valdés with an S, at Rich Valdés on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, happy to be with you this Friday night. We're live and national. It's 7 minutes past the top of the hour. Let me give you the phone number if you want to join us on our late-night national town hall conversation. It's a time-honored tradition here on this program. We call it Open Phone America, and you are welcome to join us. We have a few people lined up already. Here's the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdés. And I want to get into a number of things. We're talking about Hollywood tonight. We're talking about how Hollywood is interfering in AI policy in the United States and foreign policy with the United States. We talked about how the crazies in California, talking about Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass et al., how they are attacking federal law enforcement. They are villainizing federal ICE officials from doing their job. Things that we, the American people, voted for. And it's just, again, the Democrats have painted themselves into a corner. They have nowhere to go but to just point fingers and say, you guys are bad, you're wearing masks, you're coming for my abuela. This is a tired trope that they have, but this is all they've got. That and to stage these different types of violent uprisings where, you know, they call them protests, but you've got guys pulling out guns, shooting at the cops. Absolute insanity. You've got politicians calling for dead bodies in Los Angeles, and then nobody's held accountable for anything. Now, listen, I understand free speech, but I also know about the fighting words doctrine, and that's not considered free speech. So where are the prosecutions on that? Plus, there's all this beef between Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino, according to some left-wing outlets. I don't know how realistic that is or not. I haven't spoken with Dan Bongino. I'm only going off of the reports that I've seen from Axios and from CNN. But they claim that there's this big rift amongst them because of what's happening with the Epstein files. And listen, a lot of people are upset about it. I realize that people are going to be upset because I'm pretty jaded from this business. I think if you tell me there is a global network, and someone did, right? My brother actually told me this many years ago. He said there's a guy named Jeffrey Epstein. He's got an island called Epstein Island. He has a plane called the Lolita Express. On this plane, years ago, he told me this. On this plane have traveled many world leaders: Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Prince Andrew. He gave me so many names. And he told me these people, what he added to the story was that these people are interested in sexually abusing children. And he went as far as to say that they also they're vampires. And I mean, it got pretty convoluted. And I'm not saying that's not true. I'm just saying I've never seen proof of it. Doesn't mean it's not happening, right? Like the old saying, just because you think they're coming after you doesn't mean that you're crazy, right? Or just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're coming after you. I think that's how it goes. Anyway, point is, I've heard about this for years, and then lo and behold, little by little, more and more information comes out. President Trump today discussing with the media that, let's not forget, there are 300,000 kids missing, right? That was President Trump today. He said 300,000 kids are missing. We've only found 10,000 of those kids. Listen to cut number 2.
I think we've done very well on immigration. We were given a very bad hand by Biden. He allowed 25 million people to come in totally unchecked, unvetted. We're getting the criminals out, and we're getting them out fast. The courts have ultimately done the right thing. Amazingly, they've really done the right thing, and they understand it's really the survival of our country. It's a very important thing. We can't have like 11,888 murderers. And, you know, something that you should have that you haven't reported. As you know, 300,000 children are missing, right? 300,000 under Biden. We've already gotten back 10,000 of those children, and we have a lot more planned to come back. We're getting them back by the thousands. But 300,000, and we've, as of this morning, over 10,000 we've gotten back.
That's President Trump. Of course, his border czar, Tom Homan, was not far behind, echoing what he was saying. He was on Fox News this morning saying that rescuing children should be a nonpartisan issue. I completely agree. Check this out.
Look, we're looking for over 300,000 missing children. We've already found 10,000. Have you heard that anywhere? No, the media is simply not covering it. And look, this should be a nonpartisan issue. Arresting public safety threats and national security threats, everybody be all the same page on that. Rescuing children, I mean, it should be a nonpartisan issue. Everybody should be in lockstep on that, but they're not. The media's lying. The Democrats they don't want President Trump to be successful. I got news for them. We are being successful. Every illegal alien public safety threat we arrest makes this country safer. Every national security threat we take off the street and deport makes us safer. And we're rescuing thousands of children. The lives saved every day by ICE, the lives saved every day by Border Patrol, are in the hundreds. So it's the only thing I can think of, Griff, if they hate President Trump more than they love their community. They hate President Trump more than they want, safe communities. And there's just no other excuse why this is not. Why this has become a partisan issue to take public safety threats off the street.
That, again, borders our Tom Homan. So I want to know from you all, what do you think? What do you think is going on here? Why is there such a push for all of this stuff? And what do you think about the whole Epstein thing? Let's go to Jerome. He was on first. Jerome in Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. Jerome, hit me with your best shot.
We've only just begun to live. Buongiorno and Cash Patel. Goodbye, you two losers. Bye, bye, bye.
Now, listen, Jerome. Dan Bongino, who, by the way, his family did come by way of Ellis Island some years ago, and their name was Buongiorno many years ago. Story he told me. These are not losers. These are good guys. You should be defending Bongino if the story's true that he wants to leave because they're not being aggressive enough in their prosecution of these child predators. Isn't that a good thing?
Child predators? Donald Trump was a child predator? I didn't know that. Hey,
now you're just making stuff up. Go ahead. What do you want to say?
Question, Mr. Valdésian. When they show old Jeffrey Epstein and Donald in that video where they were lusting over those young girls.
Listen, I think you're making stories up. I've seen the video. I see Trump dancing. He's cutting a rug. He gives a little elbow over to Epstein. They say something very quick, and then it moves on. It seems to me Trump figured out that Epstein was more than just, a playboy who liked to have a fun time at a party, that he was a creep. And that's why he was ejected from Mar-a-Lago, and they cut ties, and that's why Trump's never been on the island. And he's made that very clear. So I think that you're off on this one. I'm pretty certain of it. Jerome in Charleston, South Carolina, thanks for the call. It's always fun to trade barbs with you, but today I think just you're lobbing stuff that just isn't right. We're trying to figure out what's going on with Epstein, not malign Trump. Anyway, we're going to get to the rest of your calls and more, but the question here is, what is going on with immigration in our country? Why are these children missing? And moreover, are the Democrats and the lefties in Hollywood making it impossible for the administration to do their job? Now, impossible? No, because they're getting it done, but they're definitely getting in the way, and things in Los Angeles are heating up seemingly on a daily level. If it's not on the streets, it's coming right out of the mouths of the politicians. So we're going to talk about that when we return. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if the viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
As tensions rise, a wave of celebrity voices has joined the fight, speaking out in solidarity with the communities most affected. At the 2025 BET Awards, rapper Doechii used her time on stage to call the administration's actions ruthless, offering support to Black, Latino, trans, and Palestinian communities.
Trump is using military forces to stop a protest.
Kim Kardashian also weighed in, condemning the raids as inhumane and sharing a message about the pain felt by families. When we witness innocent, hardworking people being ripped from their families in such an inhumane way, we must speak up. We must do what's right. Eva Longoria echoed that sentiment, sharing an emotional message, questioning why non-criminal immigrants are being targeted at all.
I just hope that everybody has more compassion to this issue and realize we have industries dependent on immigrant labor.
Salma Hayek added hard facts to the conversation, posting a video highlighting how immigrants contribute economically. She noted that in 2024, immigrants contributed $96 billion through ITIN, and Latino entrepreneurs made up 36% of new U.S. businesses.
If U.S. Latinos were a country, we would rank as the 5th largest economy in the world.
Pedro Pascal used his platform to show support as well. Though not all celebrities' voices are aligned, their impact is clear and powerful. When those with the biggest spotlights choose to speak up, it can shift public conversations. And right now, that solidarity matters more than ever.
So what is going on with Hollywood? The Hollywood left wants to pile on Trump. And honestly, all this is doing is making it even harder for cops to do their jobs. You've got some cops today that arrested 200 people and rescued children from a marijuana farm. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in California, of all places. And I want to get some reaction, not just from, what the Hollywood left is doing, but from really what celebrities across the board are doing to make things more difficult for law enforcement. And I want to bring in 37-year law enforcement veteran. He's retired sergeant from the Miami-Dade Police Department. Sergeant Bert Gonzalez, welcome back, sir.
Hi, Rich. How are you?
Good. So talk to me, man, because I'm looking at the boys in blue that work for ICE that are out there trying to do their job. They're being shot at by, quote-unquote, protesters. Last I checked, protesters didn't carry guns.
No, we have a right to protest and demonstrate in this country until it becomes violent, until you start attacking people, attacking police, destroying property. And that is not a protest. That's a riot. And it's also interference with the job that the ICE agents and police in general are trying to do. This has gone way beyond anything that we've seen, throughout our history of peaceful demonstrations. When we look back at, the Summer of Love, as they like to call it, back in 20, 574 demonstrations, which are really riots. And who has to handle all that? And who are the ones that get hurt? They're the police. They're attacked. They have things thrown at them. The ICE agents now are the flavor of the month. Now, I understand in politics, and Bill Clinton said it best, politics is a contact sport. They want to go after the president for his policies, that's fine. But when you're going after law enforcement for doing their job and doing what's on the books, right? The laws are on the books. We have to enforce it. The president has to enforce it, but the ICE agents and the police in this country have to enforce the law on the books. What I don't understand is when they keep saying, well, we need immigration reform. Okay, then reform it. Change the laws.
What's that got to do with me?
Never done.
Right.
Well, exactly. And speaking as a conservative, when the Democrats had the House and the Senate back in 2010, did they change the immigration laws? No, they did not. They could have changed it there, and then maybe today we don't see happening what's happening. But the problem is, in the end, is that the ICE officers, the Border Patrol, and police officers that are backing up the ICE officers are getting shot at and attacked. And that has to stop.
Folks, we're on with Sergeant Bert Gonzalez, retired from Miami-Dade PD. And, Sarge, I think this is an interesting area for a lot of people because as these influencers, these Hollywood people were saying, Trump is using the military to break up a demonstration. Well, I mean, if a demonstration goes wild, right? If a parade goes wild, they're sending in the SWAT team. I mean, this is kind of how it works in real life. You have certain tools as a law enforcement professional, and you use them as needed. So of the two of us here, you're the one with 37 years of experience as a cop. Talk to me about, some of the craziest stuff you've seen as a cop, as a sergeant, and when it comes to protests and large assemblages.
We've had them in Miami. Back in 2003, we had the Free Trade Agreement of the Americas, and I was part of the training committee for my department where we trained 1,200 officers to deal with the upcoming demonstrations. They have happened around the country and around the world, and we had to get ready for it because they've destroyed cities. Remember back in '99 when Seattle was destroyed?
Oh, wow, yeah.
So we had to prepare for that. We learned from other departments. We trained for 4 months nonstop, getting our personnel and other police departments ready for the demonstrations. In general, we had peaceful demonstrations until the Thursday in November of 2003, where it got really stupid. And we had fights breaking out. We had people attacking our officers, and we made dozens and dozens of arrests. And they were throwing anything they could at us. Slingshots, right? That's a favorite tool.
Like
of
rocks
these.
and stuff?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
And perfect example. The aluminum light poles that we have in the streets?
Yeah.
They're held down with these big steel nuts. Right?
Oh, yeah.
On
They take
screws
those off?
on the bases. They take them off and they throw them at us.
Wow.
In addition to that, what they do is they collect their human waste in 55-gallon drums, female menstrual discharge.
No way.
They put them in buckets. They throw them at us. They put acid and chlorine into bottles and try to spray it in the officers' faces. And then, of course, what you've seen lately are the Molotov cocktails.
Yeah.
Well, when you're going to be throwing a bottle of flaming gas at police, that is deadly force.
Sure.
I can tell you what we were going to do down here. Fortunately, we didn't see it because the professional protesters, and we know that a lot of professional protesters are sent around the country to start things up and then get the locals involved. If you are going to throw a flaming bottle of gas at us, we're going to shoot you.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. That's
right.
deadly
People
force
don't mess
against
around
us.
in Florida.
Right,
Sarge,
deadly
stand
force.
by right
Absolutely.
there. We're going to come right back and finish that thought. Amigos, we're on with Sergeant Bert Gonzalez, and we're going to get him to weigh in on why the left is interfering, the impact of that, as well as his thoughts on El Chapo's kids getting indicted on drug charges. All of that's coming up, plus your calls coming up right after that. 833-4-Valdés. Don't go anywhere. Sergeant Bert Gonzalez coming right back, and me, Rich Valdés.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Jack Riley, former special agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Agency field office in Chicago, says the structure and operators of Guzman Lopez's international drug flow could now be exposed in a carefully coordinated plea agreement. Ovidio Guzman Lopez tipped his hand last week with this court filing in New York, signing off on his intention to plead guilty to federal charges in Chicago.
Given who he is, the position he occupied, the profile of this criminal organization, it means a lot.
Former federal prosecutor and ABC7 chief legal analyst Gil Sofer says it's impossible to know the terms of that plea agreement.
It could range everywhere or anywhere from many years in jail still, given how many years he could have served, to witness protection program for himself, to witness protection program for members of his family.
Perhaps former investigators say the real tell came when Ovidio's older brother delivered Sinaloa kingpin Ismael Zambada to waiting federal agents in El Paso, Texas last summer. Both were immediately taken into custody and have pleaded not guilty to drug trafficking charges. Now, as the youngest son of the El Chapo drug dynasty prepares to plead guilty, investigators say this could be where the Sinaloa cartel crumbles.
So is this where the Sinaloa cartel crumbles? I don't know. I tend to be a cynic when it comes to these things, and I think likely no. And if it's Sinaloa that crumbles, Jalisco comes up and picks up the slack. The real question is, how can we curtail the demand in the United States? I believe that's a real question. But I want to get some input from our guest because Sergeant Bert Gonzalez spent 37 years as a cop in Miami. He's seen it all, from the cocaine cowboys to the protesters to people trying to wash up on shores and jet skis, I'm sure. Sergeant Bert Gonzalez, when you hear about this arrest of El Chapo Guzman, and some say it wasn't an arrest, that they turned themselves in because they cut a deal, what are your thoughts? I don't know if you have any inside baseball on this, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I don't really have inside baseball, as you say, Rich, but based on my experience down here, like you said, when we had the cocaine cowboys in full force in the mid-'80s, early and mid-'80s, you're always looking to make that arrest and then flip that person to get the bigger guy, the bigger fish after him, right, and then after him, and then after him. I think they had evidence on him that he wasn't going to be able to escape. And to use an old phrase, they made him an offer he couldn't refuse. But like you were saying, I am skeptical about bringing down the entire cartel because they're going to regroup. They're going to change locations. They're going to change faces. If the Mexican government is involved, I personally think that they are. I don't have any direct evidence, but they've been operating unfettered for decades in Mexico. So I have to think that there's government corruption there. But I think what's going to end up happening if they don't hide him, that they're already looking for him, and he's probably going to get killed, and maybe his family, because that's the way they work. We mostly had the Colombians and the Cubans down here in Miami during that time. And the Cubans looked at it as a business, and the families were left alone. The Colombians, if you wrong them, they'll kill your whole family. The Mexicans have taken it to a whole level that we haven't seen. And I, like you, I don't think it's going to bring them down. I just think they're going to regroup, and another group's going to come up, and it's going to continue. You did touch on the real problem. We keep asking for the drugs.
Yeah.
If we weren't asking for the drugs, they wouldn't have a market here for it.
Yeah, and we have demand not only for drugs, for child prostitutes, to all sorts of crazy stuff that people are into in this country. And I guess that's the downside of the excess that we have, the largesse that this country enjoys. But Sarge, when you talk about this stuff, and obviously you have some experience in that, it seems to me that there's likely a deal somewhere, right? These people want money. They probably have a gazillion dollars in Bitcoin somewhere, and that's probably the leverage that the government has. A, they have El Chapo, and B, they're saying, look, we're going to lock up your whole family. We're going to take all your assets. We're going to take all your money. We'll let you keep some of your money if you give us this, this, and this. That being the case, do you think that they're able to survive something like this, or do you think it's guaranteed that the guy's a goner?
Nothing's guaranteed, but if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I think eventually they're going to find him because they're going to throw money at everybody and everything to try and find out where he's at. And this is a problem that the marshals are going to have, trying to keep it under wraps in witness protection. Nothing's perfect. They do their best. These are very dedicated individuals. I've worked with the marshals. They're great people, great cops. But these cartels, they just seem to be able to find their way through, all the red tape, so to speak. And I don't think he's going to last in the long run. It doesn't work that way in the narcotics world.
Now, you made another comment that I have a similar view, right? And here's my view. I believe that the Mexican government is kind of weak and subservient to the cartel's massive power. This is at least the assumption I operate under. What if it's the other way around? Any talk about that? Is it maybe that it's the government that's calling the shots and the cartel are the evil henchmen?
I wouldn't put it past that. Our folks in the DEA would know better than I would. I did street level narcotics, and then we ended up working with our main narcotics bureau, and then we would get involved with the DEA occasionally.
Yeah.
Is the Mexican government calling the shots? I don't know. It's hard to say.
It's always seemed like they were the number two.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I said it's always seemed to me like they were the number two, but it's always seemed to me like they were always involved.
Yes, at some level, they're always involved. I think that's why there's been a lot of calls for our military to be on the border, special forces to start taking out cartel members, because it is a war. It is absolutely a war. If you look at the Border Patrol officers we have on the border, they're not just cops anymore. They're soldiers because of everything that's happened down there over, I mean, we're talking about the decades, but then especially the last 4 or 5 years. So the government is complicit somehow. I'm certain of that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Now, Sarge, we're going to wrap it up here, but I want to make sure everybody has a chance to follow you and learn more about everything you're doing. Tell everybody where they can learn more about your commentary and follow the work that you do.
Well, I have a new website up, sergeantmaverick.com. That's sgtmaverick.com. And I have all my op-eds on there. And I've just started a podcast, and I've got the first episode up. And
nice. Where do people hear that?
It'll be it's on Spotify and YouTube under Sergeant Maverick, the podcast.
Outstanding. Folks, give them a follow, support the cause, check them out. And Sarge, I want to thank you for being here. Sergeant Bert Gonzalez, retired from Miami-Dade PD. You're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Rich. Take care. Be safe.
You too. God bless. And amigos, your calls are coming up right now. Open Phone America. The phone lines are open. Maryland, Ohio, Idaho, and more ringing in right now. Where are my people in New York? Where are my people in Oregon, California? Where's we got people in Philly, South Jersey. What's going on? I want to hear from you. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés. Call now, 833-4-VALDÉS. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDÉS. That's Valdés with an S. America at Night with Rich Valdés.
I want to say thank you for what you do. You people speak the truth.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, to the phones we go. Let's see, where do we check in here? Let me see who's first in line. I want to go to Marcia. She's calling us from Alliance, Ohio, WNIR. Go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. God bless you for everything you do.
Amen. Thank you. Right back at you.
Thank you. The reason I'm calling is I read this online yesterday, and you can't believe nothing you read online hardly, but I had read where Pam Bondi buried all this with Epstein because there were a lot of high-ranking CIA officials that were involved in this Epstein Island, what was going on down there.
Right.
Have you heard anything like this? I mean, do you know?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I know. Right, so number one is there are several theories out there. There's one theory that Jeffrey Epstein himself was a CIA asset and that he was doing this stuff to get dirt on foreign governments, which is why he did it on behalf of the CIA. Now, that's kind of crazy, but when you think about it, the CIA's done plenty of kind of crazy things, including the Maidan Square stuff, in my opinion, that the revolution in Ukraine for regime change there. During Obama's term in office, they used the CIA to interfere with the Israeli election. So it wouldn't surprise me that that was something that was going on. But they asked Pam Bondi, why is there a minute missing from this? And she gave a very clear explanation that the video camera resets every hour at 11:58 to 11:59, and that's why there's an hour missing. And there's that same hour's missing every hour whenever you review the tape every hour, that hour is missing. That minute is missing every hour. They asked another question, and she gave a very clear answer. And they asked a third question. They said, what do you know about him being an agent? And she said, I don't know anything about him being an agent. I'd have to get back to you on that. That was her answer, which was a non-answer, a very safe answer. So I don't know. It would not surprise me in the least. I've also heard that he was not an agent of the CIA, that he was an agent of Israel's intelligence agency, Mossad. And I don't know the answer to that either. So what I do know is that this story is big. There's a lot of people that have known about it for a long time, myself included. People have told me about it way before it was brought to the forefront. And I took it as rumor until it became a thing. And apparently there are a lot of people that have a penchant for sexually abusing young children, and it's an expensive habit, a demonic habit, but an expensive one. So these people are usually very successful. And apparently it includes heads of state and others that needed to have their anonymity in this process. So Epstein guaranteed that. Now there was talk about him having all this blackmail material. Again, now the United States is saying, oh, no, that's not the case. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know that we'll ever know. If you ask me, this goes down with the other two files she said she had on her desk that day, MLK and JFK. I don't think we'll ever know the truth. We will have heard the truth from documentarians, from authors, from some eyewitnesses, from people that dare to opine on a story that's different than the current narrative. But ultimately, I think it's going to be your guess is as good as anybody else's. Marcia, thank you for your call. I appreciate you joining the show. Excellent contribution. Shout out to WNIR. And I will continue. Let's see. Where do I go now? Lester, Daytona Beach, Florida, WTTB. Go for it.
Thank you. I'm going to say something that I've said before on your show. And it's that I believe that part of the reason for the lunacy from these people that are supposed to be capable is I think there's a return of voodoo to this country.
You might be right.
And I want to say that Napoleon Bonaparte, he made the sale, the Louisiana Purchase sale to Thomas Jefferson, because he knew that there was a lot of voodoo in New Orleans, and he was under the false assumption that the voodoo traveled up the Mississippi River. And he had, since Napoleon had such a bad time in Haiti with the Grand Army losing in Haiti, he didn't want anything to do with anything that might have done with voodoo.
Well, you know what, Lester? That may be the case. I mean, there is a lot of interesting culture that comes out of the Big Easy, right? So I don't know for sure. What I can tell you is I have eyes and I can see, and I could see that there is spiritual warfare going on in our country every day. The devil is running amok. When you have boys becoming girls and girls becoming boys, and people shooting people willy-nilly, shooting at the cops, people defending the people that are shooting the cops, you know that all hell is literally breaking loose. So that's what I got on that one. Now, we've got, let me see, we've got David in San Francisco, KSFO. Go for it.
Rich, if you're talking about voodoo out of Louisiana, then we got to wonder about Speaker Mike Johnson. He's pretty much renounced Christianity. And are you familiar
Speaker Mike
with how
Johnson
he
has
froze?
not renounced Christianity.
Sure he has.
No, he
Taking care of the sick. Nope, he didn't want to do that. Taking care of the poor. Nope, doesn't want to do that.
Well, you see, David, the problem here is that the Bible calls for us to render unto God what is God's and to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. So if I am called as a matter of my faith to take care of the sick and to feed the poor or to house the poor or feed the hungry, that is a call that I do myself of my own accord, not with other people's money, as a steward of theirs, as a government official. So I think good on Mike Johnson for doing those things. To say that he's not a Christian or he's renounced Christianity shows how, A, ineffective your argument is, and B, what a tremendous lack of understanding you have about the faith. It would do you well to visit a church or maybe even just pick up a Bible. Godspeed to you, David. Amigos, I'm coming right back. Open Phone America continues.
This is America at At Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, to the phones we go. Let's go to Alan, Oakland, California, KSFO. Quickly.
Yes, hello, Rich. Well, AG and the Defense Secretary, Secretary of State are the closest positions to the president. Two of them have defense. The president has the economy. Bondi has immigration. These are very, very big plates. And something as small as Epstein is just simply too small a thing to even think about. All of their agendas are very future-looking, and the president can only support his AG. And Bongino made a huge mistake, and he should be writing a big apology.
Well, listen, I'll weigh in on this. I don't know the extent of how much of this is actually going on, but I do know I support everybody, honestly, on this. I think you raise a point with the agenda of the Attorney General being an important one. I would disagree on the point that something as small as Epstein, I would submit that I think that is a huge problem with huge national security implications, huge just national implications or even international implications, geopolitical ones as well. So I think that it's not as small as we may be making it out to be. And I think that's the position Bongino's taking in making this principled stand, if in fact this reporting from CNN and Axios is accurate. So this is a time will tell type of thing. We'll see what happens over the weekend and into Monday. I'm sure, cooler heads will prevail once tempers calm down. But I don't think this is a temper tantrum type of thing. I think this is a matter of principle, standing up for children that have been trafficked, abused, and raped. And that's not something any of us should take lying down. Alan, thank you for your call. KSFO in the building. Let's see. What else do we got here? We're going to go to Justin, Frostburg, Maryland, WCBC. Justin, quickly.
How are you doing today?
Wonderful.
Okay, I just wanted to ask a question, really. I have a problem getting a home. I'm a 45-year-old veteran. I have only two bills, my truck payment and my insurance, which is getting ready to be done. And I get 100% connectability. I put money away every month to try to get a home and also try to get the VA to help me, with the VA loan. But everything that I submit or ask them, they will not okay it. Nothing. I can't get it okayed. And then I learned from
listen,
my
here's what I'm going to
grandfather-
tell you. I've got nothing to do with the VA, but I support you because you fought for our country and served in uniform. And I say you need to reach out to Doug Collins, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. He's a righteous dude, and he's been doing the right thing from what I can hear. So Godspeed to you on that. Justin, thank you for the call. Debbie in Canton, Ohio, I appreciate your call. I can't get to you right now, but I want to wish you the best weekend. And you're right. If there's no client list, why is Ghislaine Maxwell still in jail? Excellent point. All right, amigos, hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdés.